like, yeah, I mean, it got annoying after a while. Like, even in the WWF, they kept, well, someday he'll be the champ. Oh, he's building up. He's going for the title. Never mind. And then,
I mean, I still think they should have, and maybe this is like because I'm a fan of his, but I still think he should have been WWE champ once.
Oh yeah, I think
just try it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. After they had him literally fly into the U.S. Intrepid on a helicopter and body slam Yokozuna on the 4th of July, or was it 4th of July?
It was 4th of July, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then that was like literally his peak. I mean, yeah, you could say he went to the Rumble, or he co-won the Rumble and went on to Mania or whatever, but he didn't win. I don't know. It was blah. But,
not that there's any, not that Bret Hart is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Just acceptable substitute. I mean, he was Bret Hart, but, Luger should have had it, I thought, at least once.
Right. I like how it was between, the All-American, the All-Canadian, and the Samoan pretending to be Japanese.
Who was probably born in America.
Right.
Good grief, there's a lot of stuff there.
I know, so much to unpack. Clips are shown of various meetings between Flair and Steamboat up next, where Steamboat had pinned Flair in a tag match using the crossbody. And then later in Cleveland, Cleveland.
See, I knew that was coming. I did. I made a note of it. I'm like, pause for TJ to praise Cleveland. I would have did it too, but.
Oh yeah. Well, in Cleveland, Steamboat comes out he's in the ring. Flair comes out in like a fur coat with a bunch of hot chicks and says, beautiful ladies. Got to be respectful here. And
edit that out.
Yeah. Then he starts insulting Steamboat's family, and tells Steamboat to go home and help the missus with the dishes, which would not play in the year 2020. So Steamboat naturally destroys Ric Flair's custom-made suit there, just rips it to shreds, and takes Flair down to his underpants. And Steamboat gets the upper hand, but then Hiro Matsuda jumps him, and both he and Flair beat Steamboat down. And they're putting over the fact that once Steamboat hits the crossbody, it's over. That's it. Flair can't kick out of it. So
the crossbody of death.
Hell yeah. And this reminded me of, obviously, not the same, whatever, but I always liked when they did this stuff. Like, he hits the crossbody, it's over. If, that's all he needs to do. Like, I'm reminded of, and it's a weird one to jump to, but in TNA, they put over that it's like, well, once P.D. Williams hits that Canadian Destroyer, it's over, and nobody can counter it until Chris Sabin started countering it with the Cradle Shock. And they're like, oh, that's it. He just counters in the Cradle Shock and he wins. And like they built that up like for like 2 months or something like that for this feud. And I thought that stuff was cool. But I don't know.
I did too, but on the surface though, at least the Canadian Destroyer makes more sense to be like a deadly move than a crossbody.
Yeah. Well, crossbody was the one like he held his he held him down and I don't know, he cradled him when he pinned him. I don't know. But hey, back then it was a thing. It was simple moves, I guess.
On this promo, though, I don't know. For some reason, it didn't do it for me. And then I was reminded that I don't think Ricky Steamboat was ever great on the mic. Ever.
No, I've never watched a Ricky Steamboat promo and thought, man, that was some good stuff. Like, ever.
I think that maybe a mouthpiece would have been good.
Yeah, but it would have been a little awkward with Ricky. I don't know. I think that's why they would give him tag partners and like tag alongs once in a while. I don't know.
Yeah, I watched this. I'm like, man, this guy's terrible. And not to get ahead, but there's another promo with him later, which is just as bad.
It closes the show. Definitely get into that.
And it's like, I get it. He's a family guy, but I don't know. It just seems so unnecessary. Well, it's just weird to me that they're counteracting Ric Flair with all of his, let's call them escorts. I don't know what they are. Yeah. And they counter that with a man with his wife and kid. It just was weird to me.
Well, it was the contrast. Like, here's the family man.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the playboy.
Totally. But it's like, I don't know. It just seemed weird seeing, like, escorts versus a family, one involving a child.
Well,
I mean, I get it. It just seems so weird.
Well, we'll talk about this more definitely at Wrestle War 89 when we do that at the end of the month. But the thing with like Jim Cornette was always like, well, if you want to feel like the everyman or whatever, and I mean, I didn't hold anything against Ricky for this, but I kind of see Jim Cornette's point. He said, well, then he comes out with this, basically his model wife.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Look at who I married. It's like, I'm sure everybody in the crowd is like, yeah, I can relate. But, the main event, man, is Ric Flair with Hiro Matsuda in his corner. He's defending the NWA World Heavyweight title against Ricky Steamboat. Gets plenty of time, 23 minutes and 18 seconds, which oddly enough is a short match for these two. When Flair comes out, he kisses a hot blonde woman at ringside who hands him a bouquet of red roses. Then he throws him into the crowd. I like the contrasting colors, by the way. Flair's in all red and Steamboat's in all green. Uncle Dave said that he decided to...
Sorry.
Uncle Dave said he actually decided to fly out to Chicago because this had the potential to be the best match of the year. And he said it managed to exceed even those expectations. He said, quote, "It was amazing." That was understatement. But towards the end of the match, Steamboat finally hits the top rope crossbody and takes out both Flair and referee Tommy Young. Steamboat tries for the crossbody again, but he misses. Flair goes for the figure four. Steamboat rolls him up with a small package. And then referee Teddy Long comes out of nowhere, slides in, makes the 3 count, and he awards Ricky Steamboat the NWA World title. Flair and Matsuda then argue once Tommy Young wakes up, but Tommy sides with Teddy Long and he raises Steamboat's hand. Uncle Dave and I both gave this a solid 5 stars. What say you?
Oh yeah, 5 stars easy.
Yeah, I don't think
my notes were straight and simple. I'm like, this is a 5-star classic. Enough said. I mean, yeah, that was my note. Seriously.
Yeah, it's friggin' fantastic. I love this. This was a perfect close to the show. I've seen their Wrestle War match. I've said before, I've never seen their Clash of the Champions match that's coming up in a couple weeks for us. So I'm excited, but I'm sure that's a 5-star classic as well. I mean, what else can you really say about this, man? It's Flair and Steamboat.
Yeah, it just felt like it clicked so quickly too. Like it didn't take too long to get started.
Nope.
Also, it's funny to point out, by the way, that title belt has had 3 different names. I realized that going into this.
Oh yeah, the NWA World title, WCW International Heavyweight title, and then the WCW title.
And then hell, 4 if you want to just call it the World Heavyweight title on Monday Night Raw.
But that was a different belt completely, though. It was just mimicking the big gold. I think it was smaller too, because that belt they're using here, the original big gold, that thing is huge.
Championship, pal.
Whatever. Conrad Thompson actually owns that title.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right, yeah. The guy who held it 1,000,000 times is his father-in-law. But to close the show, man, Bob Caudle interviews the new champ in the locker room, and all the baby faces hose them both down with a little bit of the bubbly. I'll bet you Caudle never got that deposit back on that tuxedo.
Yeah, right.
Steamboat clearly has alcohol burning his eyes, but he won't wipe his own face off. Someone finally walks up and wipes his face off for him, and then and then Michael Hayes comes out of nowhere, sprays him down even more.
Man. And this is that promo I was mentioning, man, he just... I'll give him points for being able to do it. Like, you can clearly see he's wiping his eyes while talking, but still, just kind of brutal. I hate to say it. Yeah.
Caudle looks like he's tired of getting soaked in champagne, by the way. If you look over at him, he's trying to keep a happy face, but he looks a little annoyed. Steamboat says that he won't hide as champion and that he'll give Ric Flair the first shot at that title. And we will see that at Clash of the Champions. So, final rating of the event, man. 411 Mania gave it 8.5 out of 10. Internet Movie Database gave it 6.9 out of 10. CageMatch.net gave it 6.88 out of 10. I gave it 7.5 out of 10. What say you?
I gave it about a C+, so maybe 7.5.
Yeah.
For me, one amazing match is not enough to save an otherwise kind of dull event.
Right. I think the last three matches were good. I don't know, man.
They were, but they weren't like, I don't think they averaged out enough to bump this up to a B. It's like as good as they were. But also, you got to also think they were like, this whole event was about this match. Those are just the other matches. Like, I know a lot of them had story too, don't get me wrong, but like, this event's what to remember for.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. This was fine, all in all, like as an event. Wasn't groundbreaking or shattering or whatever.
I compare it to WrestleMania 25. Like, they had like maybe the greatest wrestling match of all time. But other than that, I'm not going to give that event an A because that match was a 10.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. So, but all right, man. That's Chi-Town Rumble 1989. First time I've ever seen it. So this was a treat for me. Even though
it's the first time I've ever seen that event too. I mean, I've seen the match before, but I don't think I ever watched the event as a whole. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good stuff for the most part, even though we talked about it was a little boring. But if you can get through the first half, it does start to pick up, especially the U.S. title and the world title matches. Those were my top two favorites of the night, by far. Next week we've got, we're going a little bit into the future, 10 years into the future, actually, from this event. We're going to the land of extreme for ECW's Heat Wave 1999. Greg actually picked this one out, which I was a little shocked about, but yeah, looking forward to
I thought we should show some love to the ECW crowd, and I thought this was actually a decent event, so.
I'll have to watch it. I've never I knew it existed, but I haven't heard of the card or anything on it, so I'm looking forward to watching it. It's always fun to talk about ECW, whether good, bad, or indifferent. But yeah, so that is coming up July 8th. July 15th, we've got Clash of the Champions. I don't have it right in front of me. Was it 6, right?
I believe it was 6, New Orleans.
Yeah. In front of a crowd at the Superdome that Jim Cornette called a piss hole in a snowbank. So
okay.
Basically, there was, how the hell do you paper the Superdome as much as they had to paper the Superdome? It was embarrassing.
Well, also, I want to point out, not to jump ahead, I'm almost certain the entire event is not on the network. I think there's some editing, like some matches are missing. So.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Well, I'll see if I can dig it up on the internets, but we'll see. July 22nd, we go back to the WWF, whatever you want to call it, for one of the most talked about In Your House events of all time. It was WWF In Your House Canadian Stampede. Took place in July of 1997. It was one of it was on Bret Hart's farewell tour, whether or not he knew it at the time. And then finally we're closing out the month.
Well, you know it or not, you're getting the hell out.
Well, yeah, he did.
That's what a way to put it.
I don't know if he knew he was bound for WCW at the time, but he would be.
Wrestling,
And then we're closing out the month of July on the 29th with Wrestle War 1989 from not July, from 1989. That was the close of the Flair Steamboat trilogy, and it was damn good. There's an amazing ending to that show that we will get into on the 29th. Thank you all for listening. Again, follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter. We are at @mainevent_marks. If you want to email us directly, it's maineventmarkspod@gmail.com. We are on YouTube. If you just type in Main Event Marks, we're the first username that pops up there. Subscribe, people. We get 100, and we can pick our own URL. So that's.
And whoever is the 100th subscriber, we'll give a sticker to.
Yeah, at least. So thank you all very much for listening in. Thank you for joining me, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And we will catch you all next week with some ECW.